Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Shine at Work podcast. I'm your host, Karen Weeks. As a career transition coach and a culture leader, my goal is to help career-oriented humans get unstuck so they can shine brighter in business and in life. I believe that you deserve a career that lights you up because, spoiler alert, it impacts how bright you shine in your whole life. This season, we are laser focused on helping you navigate your career and find a job internally or externally, or do a full career change. Because guess what? It's not too late. You can still set yourself up for a great 2023 starting now. Because I know what it feels like when your light is dim and you're in a role that doesn't light you up anymore. I made a career change from theater to HR, and now I've added coaching to the mix. I know what it's like to try to think about how to raise my hand for a new role at my company, but not sure how to start those conversations. At times in my life, I had to take a look inside to see what was most important to me, what made me shine bright, and how to make adjustments along the way, and how my career even fit into that. It's all possible. I did it, my previous guests have done it, and I help others do it too. And I'm so thrilled to welcome my co-coach, my friend, recruiting partner, Dan Carr, to be the co-host throughout this season. You walk away from each episode not just inspired, but with some actionable advice and steps you can take to land a new job and make the most out of your career. And I hope that you find it so valuable that you subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and tell your friends, because we all deserve to shine bright in our lives and at work. So let's jump into this week's episode. Hi, everybody. It is so good to see you again. We are here for our season finale. So, of course, therefore, I welcomed my amazing friend, Daniel Carr, back. Hello, Daniel.
Hello. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
And it is very perfect. We are doing this episode in only 3 weeks in, if you're listening to this live, or 4 weeks in, because we are here to talk about how to really plan to shine your brightest at work, find a new job if that's what's important to you in the new year. So before we dive into that, though, let's just kind of take some reflection on our last year. So it's very easy to say, I want to do the thing, I want to reach the goal, I want to do whatever in the new year. But part of that is because something is telling you that from last year. So what I always encourage people to do is really reflect on the last year first and think about it less in a judgment sense. I feel like everybody is new year, new you, like I'm going to lose all this weight, I'm going to do all these things, which is lovely. You can do that. Doesn't mean it's not the right goal, but like the why behind it and how is that building on something, or what is it you want to learn? So before we dive into all of that, let's talk about 2022. What went well? What do you wish went different? What's a highlight for you? Dan, would you like to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You go first.
I knew it.
Well, I'll just steal some of your things.
Yeah. I need more time to think. It's like a great politician move. It's like, that's a great question. If I were to think about that a little bit, and really they're just buying time to come up with their answer.
What do you got, Weeks?
All right. So this is what I'm thinking. I think one thing I've learned is that you really need to lean on other people. So we had an unexpected move to a city we didn't really know anything about. So all of a sudden I had to ask all my Charlotte peeps, where should I live? Who's a realtor? Like, what do I do? So really relying on people. When I think about the amazing team that we've built, the companies that I'm a part of, it's all because we've got great people together. You and I started working together again and doing this podcast and, working together with our clients. Like, I literally can't do it all, but more importantly, I shouldn't do it all. Like, you need people to support you and be around you and create this community that will really help you thrive. So I think that was one of my biggest takeaways is, like I said, you literally can't, but you also shouldn't do it alone.
Yeah, I love that. I think for me, a big learning or just takeaway is follow your heart and your passion. Working with you again has been just sort of a dream to come true. Not to sound too cheesy, but it can be a little scary to dive in with 2 feet and try something new on your own. But we've been talking about this for years, and to be able to get to do it and sort of work through the challenges, but lean on each other has been an amazing experience, and something I really look forward to continue growing in the new year.
Yeah, I mean, for people who, whether you believe in manifestation, visualization,
You got
whatever you believe in, like you and I sat on previous couches and talked about someday we're going to work together. And literally this summer, you came to our apartment to chat about this opportunity. We sat on a couch and we both went, holy shit, we're sitting on a
it.
couch together talking about
Was it the
this.
same couch?
It was not. I will
Okay.
admit, I did not buy the couch from the company that we were working for. Similar
Fair
color,
enough.
different couch.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, it's amazing how things, you don't always know the timing, you don't always know how it's going to look, but if things are important to you, they eventually come into play the way you wanted them to. For
Yeah,
sure.
and I think it's just knowing that connecting the dots on sort of what you're passionate about and what you want to do is also has challenges, and it can be a little bit of a bumpy road getting there, but if you just sort of stick to your guns and follow your heart, it usually pays off in the end.
Well, and I think that ties to something we're going to talk about here in a little bit about sort of like if you do want to change jobs, why and all of that, because you need to sort of be able to articulate what that's going to look like. So, just to kind of keep going down this rabbit hole, like you and I could have worked together at some other company and I was the HR person, you were the recruiting person. Like we could have done that again, I'm sure at some point in our lives, but
Yep,
this is where it felt right. It's scary. It's new. Neither of us have done this kind of stuff before. So who knows, but this felt more right than like, yeah, just doing the same thing again.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
All right, enough smushy stuff about why we're so amazing and why we love each other. Okay, so thinking about 2023 now, so that's what we've learned in the year and what we're sort of carrying with us into the new year. So now as we think about 2023, questions I usually ask people are, what do you want to do more of? What's something that you want to protect? Like maybe there's something that's going really well and you want to make sure you don't lose sight of that. How can you use your superpower more? What's something you want to learn? So as you think about 2023 with sort of those prompts in mind, what's something that you want to focus on in the new year?
A very simple one is I've gotten way more back into to reading,
Mhm.
and I want that to be a big part of my new year and growing. And it's not just sort of fictional; it's business, and I just want to get to a place where I'm reading like a book every 2 weeks.
Nice.
And it's kind of the passion or the fire is back for that, and I really want to capitalize on that. So big
That's
one for
awesome.
me.
So that has been my big thing is turning off screens at a certain time at
Hmm.
night and reading instead. Because I really do love to read. When I get a good book, I am all in and like I stay up too
Yep.
late reading. So, but when you're tired at the end of the day, you're like, oh, Instagram, and like you're doing that. And that's not healthy for so many reasons. So I've gotten
Yeah.
back into reading.
Well, now there's also 30,000 different streaming services with everybody's got a show you need to watch. So it's very easy to melt back into the couch and just flick around on that. So
Yeah.
reading this year.
I was just talking about this actually with my health coach is there's such a difference between watching a show that you're really excited about. Like what's the Mandalorian's new show that we're watching on HBO?
The Last of Us.
Yeah, The Last of Us. Now you have real insight into Karen Weeks. I can't remember names of anything. I grab a character I know and they're in it and that's what I refer. So like that is super exciting, right? Like you're excited for that every time. On like a Wednesday, we're like, what are we gonna watch? I don't know. What are you gonna watch? And you just end up watching something just because you're watching something.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get away from. There's so many things that are just like filler that are terrible. I'll watch for like 3 episodes and then I move on to something that I feel exactly the same way about, but I just start that up and I feel like I could just be reading in that time and save
Yeah.
myself for like really good things. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think one of the things that I'm really focused on, and it actually builds on my reflection from last year, is I am very good at prioritizing work. I like what I do. I'm good at it. Like I get recognition for it, which fuels my like high achiever personality.
mhm.
And so everything else goes to the side because like that adrenaline rush isn't there. I don't get a promotion for taking the trash out or whatever, right? Like, I know that doesn't happen. And unless I'm training for like a Spartan race or something, even exercising doesn't have that same push for me. But I realized that that is both can be true. I can get the adrenaline rush and all that kind of stuff from work, and I can carve out time for me, my health, not being on calls all day, like whatever needs to be the case for that moment. So I always saw it as, oh, I have to take my foot off the gas at work in order to do the personal stuff and take care of myself.
Mm.
They can actually both be true. It's just finding the right harmony of the two. So I'm trying to better find that harmony.
I'll hold you to
I
that. I'm going to police you on that one
know.
because
You really
I think you need it.
yeah, we're working on that. The therapist, the health coach, the like everybody's gonna help me figure this out. The village of Karen is going to help with
Yes,
this.
I'm there for you.
Thanks. All right. So we did all that because we wanted to show that reflections and goals can look different for different people. And, whatever is important to you is what you should be focusing on. So as you think about that within your career, whether it is more personal goals or career oriented goals, again, we're whole humans, these things all overlap. So as we start the new year, we really wanted to talk more about what needs to change for you in the new year. What things do you want to leverage? What aren't you doing today? What do you want to do more of? All the things that we just talked about. So this season, of course, we've talked a lot about changing jobs. That's why Dan has been joining us for so many of these. We've gotten deep in a lot of different areas. Each episode has really sort of torn apart a different area of the job search. So as we think about the new year, if your goal is to change jobs, we just wanted to do kind of like a quick hit, 3 things you need to know or something like that to help people get started in their career search on a strong foot. And then we're going to do a couple of other scenarios as well. But our recruiting expert here with us, what are if I'm starting today and saying, I want a new job, I haven't started my search yet, I'm starting from scratch. What are a couple of things that I need to do first in order to really be set up for success in that job search?
Yeah, so I think number one that always sticks out for me, and there's probably a pattern of this in our previous conversations, is I think you really need to like just take a step back and take stock of what's important for you, what you're passionate about, and how you can connect that to the next company or the job that you choose to pursue. So it's really important to find either a company or a product or a mission or the culture of a company that you really have a genuine connection to, or multiple companies that you do, as sort of a starting point of like, this is what's important, this is what I want to be a part of my life, and this is what I'm going to put all this effort into a job search to achieve. I think it just gives you, there's extra added motivation when you're going into your search, having that as a foundation. And it's also going to help you when you do get to the interview stage with companies. If you've got a genuine connection with what they're doing and it's coming through naturally in those conversations, I can tell you from lots of experience that those are the people that definitely pique your interest and stand out in a pool of candidates. So that's certainly a big one for me.
Yeah. And what I think it kind of goes back to why that job or why that company or what's going to be different. So especially if you want to be running towards something, not away from something. So if you're in like a good on paper job, like assuming that you're not in a toxic environment or like all the reasons that you should run away, why make the job? Like what is going to be different? Well, maybe it ties more to your passion. There's someone I know who, again, had a good job. She liked the team, she liked the company. She wasn't really passionate about what the company did. Someone reached out to her from a company that really aligned with something she was super passionate about. It's in like the animal health space. She loves animals. And she's like, I couldn't resist. Like, there wasn't anything wrong with the job I had today, but how can I not work for a company like that when I care so much about animals and blah, 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 blah. So of course she
Yeah.
took it. So like knowing that and how that ties to it, because otherwise you're just going to go from job to job, which, may be right for certain moments in your life, but at other times, if you can tie it to your passions, that obviously makes a big difference.
Or maybe it's not the next job that you take, but you can see that it plays into a step that's going to lead you to that type of
Yes.
company and the types of roles that they have or what they do or the product that they have. So you can think about in two ways. Like, is it immediately gratifying, or are you growing towards something? And again, that's extra added motivation.
Yeah. Yeah. We talk a lot about like bridge roles. How is this role going to help you get to
Hmm.
what the next one is? And we've talked about this. Like we need to do a whole episode just on this topic that we're just starting to scratch the surface on, but also the concept of like helping tell that story. Like, what does this job get you so that you can tell a different story moving forward or get you to that next job? It's not literally about what that bridge job is, but how does that help your story for the future?
Yep, exactly.
All right. So knowing what's important to you, what your passion is, like what you're running towards is one key thing. Anything else someone should consider if they're just starting their job search now?
Another important thing that you take for granted is familiarizing yourself with your narrative and your career up to that point. Like, um, taking time to sit down and think through how you've gotten to where you are, what that path has looked like, what challenges you've overcome, what failures you've had, and really get in touch with what that story is. And a good exercise is obviously writing out your resume, but also beginning to practice some standard interview questions to start thinking through. Because, you know, if you've had a 10 plus year career, it's tough to have things on the tip of your tongue, or to fully think through everything that you've done. So just do some exercises to go back in time and sort of think through those things. There's lots of resources online, with some pretty standard like behavioral interview questions that'll give you a list of 30 things that is good if you're starting in the beginning of your process to think through how you would answer those, maybe write it out, start thinking through it, practice it. It's going to help you out immensely when you're going into interviews. You're going to have more confidence, and you're just going to be able to connect where you are with this new opportunity and what they're looking for in a candidate. So I think that's a pretty important one for me too.
Well, and I would imagine too that also helps as you start to think about your cover letter or how you're reaching out to folks for networking. Like if you know your story, that will flow through everything else, even if you're not
Exactly.
actively interviewing yet.
Yep. Yeah. So, that exercise of just sort of reaching back and not taking for granted all the little things that you've done, coming up with anecdotes is really going to help you out, to your point, in several different ways.
I love it. So I'm going to add on one more,
Yeah,
and maybe I'm stealing if you had a third. So sorry about that.
go for it.
But I think the thing that I have seen people struggle with the most is if you are not a natural networker and throughout your career you haven't like connected on LinkedIn or kept those relationships strong or and by the way, strong can just be like, hey, I remember your name. It doesn't have to be you remember like their birthday or whatever. But start doing that now. So if you have the inkling that you might start thinking about a new career, even if you're not, like everyone should take this advice, but start rebuilding those connections, start finding those people on LinkedIn, start following companies. Because I think the thing that I see people get the most anxious about is they start working with us, they've started their job search and they haven't taken those steps early. And now they feel like they're behind from a networking standpoint.
Mhm. Yep, and it also, we've talked about this before, but that puts you in a position where, you don't have to be networking and feeling like you're asking for something. You can just genuinely be connecting with people, and then maybe you leverage them a little further down your job search process. But yeah, that was gonna be my point to make as well, is because we see it, and it can be an uncomfortable thing to say network. So just
Mhm.
starting to take some baby steps into it, familiarizing yourself, get comfortable with it. And that can be, reach out to former coworkers, connect with them on LinkedIn. Zoom has created a great precedent for being able to just, instead of meeting someone for coffee, maybe you just connect with them for a 10-15 minute catch up. But there's really simple ways to just inch your way into networking, start to build some of those relationships back up. So, further down the line, if they know somebody at a company that you're interested in applying to, you can maybe leverage that, or maybe they work somewhere that you'd be interested in going. So yeah.
It's all about mindset. So, and I literally was just talking to someone about this earlier today that if your mindset is relationship building, reconnecting with people,
Hmm.
finding out something new, like if you love to learn, find out about a new company or something versus networking, which people, like you said, like sometimes have some baggage with, maybe that helps you do it in a way that feels both more authentic, but also might be more fun versus I have to reach out to 10 people on LinkedIn and give them my quote unquote business card and like all that crap.
Yeah.
If you have a different mindset, it might be healthier and more fun.
Yeah, nobody likes doing sales, and if you go into network feeling like you have to sell yourself and there's an
Mm,
agenda behind it, it's going to make it a little more
yeah.
uncomfortable. So, just taking those early steps is definitely helpful.
I love it. Well, since I totally cut you off and stole your idea, was there anything else that you wanted to share about if you're starting your search for the first time?
What was I going to say? I thought I had something else.
It's all my fault.
Oh, yeah, another small one. I mean, again, they should sponsor us, but familiarize yourself with get to know LinkedIn. It's there's been a lot of developments in the product over the last decade, and maybe you haven't searched for a job in 5 years. Just go in there, kind of see what it has to offer as a tool. Take a look at your profile, update that. Look at different like if we go back to step one of like find your passion in
Mhm.
companies and products that you're interested in, go in there and follow the companies, follow groups that are associated maybe with a product or a certain profession that you're interested in. It's a good tool. It's going to be a necessary tool for the most part in any job search. So just get to know it, and you'll be able to leverage it further down the road.
All right, so this is our call out to our audience. Share this across the board so we've got so many downloads. LinkedIn can't ignore us and then they
That
have to sponsor us. That's my goal for 2023. So we get when we talk to folks, some of them are like, I want to change jobs. I don't know where to start. So that was that group. The other group is I've been looking for a new job and I'm just not getting it. I'm not hearing back from recruiters. I'm not moving forward in interviews. Like I'm just not getting the results. So if someone's feeling stuck in their search, do you have some advice for them who's sort of in theory already done those first couple of steps and is just stuck?
Number one, don't take for granted the work that you've done up to that point, and make sure that you're sort of keeping track of who you've reached out to and jobs that you've applied to. And if you get to that phase, set up a system where you can circle back with people, and circle back on jobs. You can have some easy wins there, sometimes, or just reignite a conversation that maybe ended. Just check back in on conversations maybe you had a month ago, or someone that you sent a LinkedIn message to that didn't get back to you. I know my LinkedIn is probably like 3 months behind of people reaching out to me and not getting back. So it's not bad. It's never a negative to do have a little bit of continuation in that process, and it can help just refresh some of those conversations that you've had, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love it. And I think there's this concern that I'm going to come across as annoying or stalkerish or something negative. And if you do it with the tone of, hey, I just haven't heard from you in a while, wanted to check in. I'm still really interested in this role. If you have any updates, great. If not, hopefully our paths cross again. Like you can keep it as light as you feel comfortable. It only comes across as like annoying or whatever if it's every day consistently for 2 weeks. Like those are the people where you start to block. But
Yep.
if you're truly just doing check-ins to see how the search is going, I'm really interested in this role. Do you have anything else that's open? That's all totally fine.
Something that stuck with me early doing sales in another life was polite persistence. So as
Mm.
long as you feel like you're practicing just a quick check-in, like not hounding people on a weekly basis, it's perfectly okay and people understand.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love alliterations. Polite persistence. Um, so I think the other thing that I was thinking about is recognizing that it's a lot looking for a job search. And so it's also okay to take a breath. It's okay to stop looking for just a little bit. Because sometimes, especially if you're really frustrated, not that you're literally projecting it in your conversations, but there's just something about how you're presenting both for yourself, but also for others that sometimes can be a blocker for you and you don't know it. So take a breath, take a week off from your job search, kind of like just say, I'm not going to focus on this for a little bit, or I'm only going to talk to jobs that are like really interesting to me right now. I'm going to lessen the net to like have some focus for a little bit, change something up to give yourself a break. It's almost like dating, right? Like everybody says, oh, the minute I stopped looking, Mr. or Mrs. Right walked in the door. That literally just happened to someone. I was at a conference a couple weekends ago. I saw this woman. I knew she had been searching for a really long time. I was like, how's it going? Like, have you heard anything? And she's like, I took a break in December. This company that had been on my list reached out to me. I start in 2 weeks. I'm not
Awesome.
lying. Like, I know that sounds like, whatever Tony Robbins kind of bullshit stories, but like, it's true. Like it happened for her. So give yourself some grace, and it's okay to take a breath and to pause or like just try something different. Because otherwise, if you feel like you're stuck on the hamster wheel, which is what this used to be called, you're really just going to burn yourself out.
Yeah, absolutely. That was going to be the next thing that I said that you stole again. I think another point there is, as you get further and further down, or further along in your process, you can lose a little bit of focus and start,
Mm,
sending resumes to companies maybe you wouldn't have in the beginning. I think it's a good opportunity to just take a breath and reevaluate and go back to your sort of goal that you set out in the
yeah.
beginning of what am I trying to achieve? What's the type of company? And just make sure that you're adhering to that. And it can be a good opportunity to sort of get back on the right sort of tracks and refocus your search. So
Yeah.
totally okay. And to your point, like it can be stressful, and if that starts to come through in some of your applications or your conversations, it's better to take that pause.
Well, and I love what you said about going back to your sort of why, right? Like you're running towards something, make sure you're actually running towards that. I
Yep.
get it. Some days you have to take a job because you got to pay the bills, you got to do the whatevers. Like I get it. I'm not saying don't do what you have to do for you and your family, but if you are in a place where you're trying to find the right thing, like and you're not getting there, go back to your why, and that might help you reposition something.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, so since I keep stealing your thunder, I'll just sit here and be quiet. Anything else you wanted to say about for people who are feeling stuck?
That's all I got right now.
All right, good. That's all I have to say about that. All right. So the sort of third bucket is I don't want to neglect the people that are thinking about, well, actually, I'm pretty happy like at my company or my role is pretty good. I'm just trying to think about a promotion. I would love to find maybe a different role within the company. I'd love to get on this project that I'm really excited about. So wanted to just kind of take a moment to also share that a lot of this can be applied internally as well. And it all goes back to the why. So if there's a team you want to work with more, if you're trying to get to a promotion, if you're want to work on a project, if you want to learn a new skill, talk to your manager about how you can do that. What are the steps to get there? What does being a senior blah 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 look like, and what's the gap, and what are some things I need to learn in order to take that step forward? Can you be the like liaison to this other team that you're really interested in working with, just to kind of like get your foot in that door? So work with your manager on sharing what your goal is, and then what are some steps you can take to get there so that you can find those opportunities internally as well. A lot of people are also happy either in their role or at their company. So we don't want to always make it sound like you have to leave or run away. You
Yep.
can have
Totally.
all those possibilities internally too.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And one thing that just kind of along those lines, just in my experience, is one-on-ones with managers can kind of go off the rails and historically turn into just like, okay, what are you doing this week?
Mm,
That's great. We check this box, that box. But even if you have to sort of steer the ship a little bit, try and make those one-on-ones that you have, either it's a weekly or a bi-weekly basis, like 20-25% about growth,
yeah.
and what you want and what you're looking to achieve, and really utilize that relationship with your manager to help build out a clear path of how you're going to get there. Um, and I just bring it up because I see it's, you've got one-on-ones, but then you talk to people, have you talked about your growth and or these things that you're looking to achieve, and it's like no.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think there can be a big missed opportunity there.
Yeah, it's always what's on your task list, what fire do
Hmm.
we need to put out,
Yep.
like the here and now versus that longer term conversation. Agree
Yep.
100%. And to your point, like if for some reason your manager isn't leading with that or isn't carving out time for that, development is a partnership. Your career doesn't happen to you. You are an active participant in your career. So tell your manager like, hey, I'm going to find 30 more minutes for us because I really want to talk about my development and we didn't get to it. Or can we extend this 101 to make that possible? Like you can also start that conversation. You don't have to wait for them to do it for you.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that we have shared lots of goodies this season. I think that hopefully there's some real tangible goodies in there for folks to really kind of sink their teeth into. Hopefully, if one of these things kind of sounded familiar to you and you want to go deeper, there's episodes about all of this that go deeper for this last season. I also want to share that to sort of support all of this, we've created some new offerings for folks that are thinking about career coaching. So one is if you're feeling stuck or you don't know where to start, you can work with Daniel Carr for 90 minutes to figure out one thing that you need to do to really create a spark in your career when you're trying to figure out what's going on. So you can now find that on the website if you want to check out and do, it's almost like an audit, right? Like how can I grab just one thing and at least start? And then hopefully, there's a lot more we can help you with. We also are offering packages that are around both the job search as well as just the career development. So, everything we just sort of talked about there at the end, we can also do one-on-one coaching around that. And then if you're in Charlotte and you're listening to this before February 4th, we are doing a live in-person workshop, half a day. Daniel Carr is coming down to North Carolina. And we're going to have a lot more information about that in the show notes. But if you're in the Charlotte area or can get to the Charlotte area on February 4th, we're going to be doing a live workshop talking about exactly this, how to find a new job in the new year. Dan's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Amazing coach called Charlene Jefferson's going to be there. So we'd love to see you there. So all of that information is in the show notes. And that kind of wraps up our little season here.
It's so sad.
Can't believe it. I know we started off talking about like how special this is and everything. I just can't thank you enough, Daniel, for joining us on the season, on this journey. Hearing from you, I think just makes everything feel so real, especially you've got the credibility of like, I've been on the other side. I'm the person you're talking to or you want to talk to. So like, let me tell you what I'm looking for. I think it's been so valuable. So thank you so much for joining us. And
of course. Thank you for having me. This has been, it's very rewarding to be able to sort of turn it around and work with people and share those learnings. So I'm excited to do more and for what's to come.
I was going to say maybe a little teaser that season 6 might have some more dual conversations, not
maybe
just.
We'll see. We got to work out our contract.
We got to learn how to shut Karen up so you don't steal my ideas. I get it. I hear you.
That is a number one. I just learned I have to go first now.
Yeah.
That's apparent.
Take a breath. Take your turn. Yes, I hear you. I hear you. Good feedback. I appreciate the feedback. And for anyone who, as you're listening, if you have topics you'd love for us to talk about and you're like, oh, I really wish I could hear more about this or some advice on that, let us know, send us a message and we will definitely think about it because we're going to be mapping out the next season here shortly. It'll probably go live sometime in the spring as soon as I can get my act together. So thank you again, Daniel, for joining us. Thank you everyone for listening and we will see you again soon. Thank you so much for listening to the Shine at Work podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave a review. Leaving a review just takes a few minutes and truly helps other people find this podcast, which is why we do this podcast, to help others. If you want to learn more about how we work with people to help them transform their careers and shine brightly in their lives, let's connect. We work with amazing humans one-on-one to help make a career change, go for that promotion, set career goals, and just build a plan for success for a job. Whether you're newer in the workforce, coming back after a break to focus on family, you've been in your job or your career for years, or maybe you're taking a step into management, we can help you. You can email me directly at Karen@KarenDweeks.com or message me on Instagram at KDWCoaching_careers or find me on LinkedIn, just Karen D. Weeks. Finally, we always have to give a shout out to the amazing Astronaut Go Home for our music and the people I don't know how I would live without, Novice Studios, for making the podcast come to life. Until next time, remember that you can and deserve to shine at work.